Good day everyone, and welcome to our online symposium on environmental awareness, initiated by our active YESO advisors with the supports of our dear school heads, Ma'am Presinia B. Taluban, our science department head, and Sir Jose V. Bernardes, our school principal. I am Sir Junjun D. Pescador, the school's disaster, risk reduction and management coordinator, and I'll be talking today on understanding hazards, specifically earthquake. Recently, our province of Abra, especially in Tineg, Pilar, Lacub, Daguman, Danglas, and Manabo, experienced earthquake. And according to PVOX, or the Philippine Volcanology and Seismology, there is no aftershocks and damages. At the end of our session on understanding hazards, specifically on earthquake, you will be able to first, understand the concepts of hazards. Second, understand the concept, causes, and effects of earthquake. Third, demonstrate understanding on what to do before, during, and after earthquakes. And finally, to understand the different phases of an earthquake drill. Now, let me ask you this. How serious do you consider the threats of disaster in our community or in the country? Another, how committed are you to prepare when there is disaster? What are the rules of the youth in disaster preparedness and response? Or what are your rules as youth in disaster preparedness and response? And the last question is, what should you keep in mind before, during, and after a disaster? According to the Center for Research on the Epidemiology of Disaster, the Philippines, our country, ranked as one of the most disaster-prone country in the world. And this is possible, and it's true, that we are prone to different disasters like earthquake and typhoons because our country is situated along the Pacific Ring of Fire. Now, let's take a look. What is hazard? When we say hazard, this is a phenomenon that poses threat to the people, structure, or economic assets, and which may cause a disaster. When we say hazard, this is a potential source of harm. Substances, events, or circumstances can constitute hazards when their nature would allow them, even just theoretically, to cause damage to health, life, property, or any other interest of value. In other words, hazard is a source or a situation with the potential for harm in terms of human injury or ill health, damage to property, damage to the environment, or a combination of this. An unwanted event is a situation or condition where there is a loss of control of the hazard that leads to harm. There are two general types of hazards. We have human-induced hazards and natural hazards. So what are the distinction between and among human-induced hazards and natural hazards? When we say human-induced hazards, these are the result of human intent, error, or a result of failed systems. They can be caused by accidents in human-built infrastructures or technologies, or intentional human actions that cause destruction or loss of life. Or these are the so-called man-made hazards causing disasters. Human-induced hazards include industrial accidents. What are these? We have radioactive fallout, gas leaks. Another, we have pollution. So we are referring to the solid waste, air, water, and thermal pollution. We also have sea and air accidents. We also have fire incidents, forest fires, civil strife, oil spill, and red tide. While natural hazard, this is a natural phenomenon that might have a negative effect on humans and other animals or the environment, which include the following. We have climatic variability. Examples of this, we have La Nina, El Nino. We also have typhoons and storm surges, ground subsidence, volcanic eruptions, landslides, tsunami, flood, and earthquakes. In this online symposium, we will be focusing on earthquakes. Earthquakes are one of the examples of natural hazards. An example of earthquake that was happened in the Philippine history was the Moro Gulf earthquake, and this was happened in 1976. This is actually the deadliest earthquake to ever hit the Philippines in terms of casualties, killing about 8,000 people. Another was the killer earthquake happened on July 16, 1990, and I was grade 3 at the time, with intensity 7, with 1,666 dead and 3,500 injured individuals, with 11 billion pesos damages in property and 1.2 billion pesos in agriculture. So what is an earthquake? An earthquake is also known as quake, tremor, or trembler. It is the phenomenon where there is a sudden release of extreme energy from the Earth's crust, resulting in shaking and displacement of the ground along with the creation of seismic waves. Another, when we say earthquake, this is a vibration of the earth produced by the rapid release of energy. Simply, when we say earthquake, this is the shaking of the ground. We also have the so-called seismic waves, and these are energy moving outward from the focus of an earthquake. When we say focus, this is the location of initial slip on the fault where the earthquake's origins. And we also have the so-called epicenter, and this is the spot on Earth's surface directly above the focus. Now, why do earthquakes occur, or what are the causes of earthquakes? There are 4 general causes of earthquake. First, we have geological faults. Another, we have volcanic eruptions. We have mine blast. We also have nuclear test. When we say geological faults, is a planar fracture or discontinuity in a volume of rock across which there has been significant displacement. And there are 3 main types of faults, namely, we have the normal faults, we have the thrust fault, we have the strike-slip fault. The normal faults is also called as a divergent boundary, wherein the plates are moving away from each other. Thrust fault is also known as convergent boundary, wherein these plates converge, while the strike-slip fault, it is also known as transform fault boundary. Another causes of earthquake, we have volcanic eruptions. Volcanic eruptions happen when lava and gas are discharged from a volcanic vent. Another, we also have mine blast. Mine blast is actually the use of explosives and other methods to break rock for excavation. It is practiced most often in mining, quarrying, and even civil engineering such as dam, tunnel, or road construction. Another reason why there is an earthquake is the nuclear test. How is this nuclear test? This is actually the nuclear weapon test, or nuclear weapon test are experiments carried out to determine the effectiveness, yield, and explosive capability of nuclear weapons. So, If there are causes, then definitely there are also effects of an earthquakes. What are these? First, we have the so-called ground shaking. Ground shaking is the most familiar effect of earthquakes. It is a result of the passage of seismic waves through the ground and ranges from quite gentle in small earthquakes to incredibly violent in large earthquakes. Another effect, we have ground rupture. Ground rupture is another effect of earthquakes which occurs when the earthquake movement along a fault actually breaks the Earth's surface. Rupture causes problems for humans by, well, rupturing things. We have pipelines, tunnels, railway lines, roads, and airport runways which across an area of active rupture can easily be destroyed or severely damaged. Another, we have landslides. Landslides are caused by earthquakes both by direct rupture and sustained shaking of unstable slopes. Another effect, we have the so-called tsunamis. Aside from ground shaking, ground rupture, and landslides, we also have the occurrence of tsunami. Tsunamis, which are popularly known and incorrectly known as tidal waves. Tsunamis are a grave hazard to many parts of the world, particularly around the Pacific Ocean basin. Tsunamis are a series of water waves caused when the seafloor moves vertically in an earthquake and which can travel vast distance in a short period of time. The safest thing to do if you hear a tsunami coming is to move to higher ground away from the beach as quickly as possible. Another effect of an earthquake is liquefaction and at the same time the so-called subsidence or liquefaction and subsidence. These are one of the effects which often are the cause of much destruction in earthquakes, particularly in unconsolidated ground. Liquefaction is when sediment, grains are literally made to float in groundwater, which causes the soil to lose all its solidity, while subsidence can then follow as the soil recompacts. And another effect of earthquake is fire. Fires are a major source of damage after earthquakes. Ground rupture and liquefaction can easily rupture natural gas mains and water mains, both contributing to the ignition of fires and hindering the efforts to control them. Now, with all these types of major damage, people often ascribe malevolence to earthquakes. Please keep in mind, not a single person has ever been killed directly by an earthquake. It is the fact that we humans persist in building things which are prone to failure in earthquakes and then living in and around these buildings that results in death during earthquakes. Earthquakes are mindless natural phenomena. We are not. With these effects and damages brought to us by earthquakes, we should bear in mind the different things that we need to do before, during, and after earthquake. Before the occurrence of an earthquake, these are the things that we should do. Develop a family earthquake plan. Decide how and where your family will reunite if separated. Choose an out-of-area friend or relative who separated family members can call after the quake to report their whereabouts and condition. Know the safe spot in each room, under sturdy tables, desk, or against inside walls. Know the danger spots, where we have windows, mirrors, hanging objects, fireplaces and tall, unsecured furniture. Conduct practice drills. Physically place yourself in safe locations. Learn first aid and have first aid kit. Keep a list of emergency phone numbers. The numbers of the BFP, PNP, even hospitals, you should know those. Learn how to shut off gas, water, and electricity in case the lines are damaged. Keep flammable or hazardous liquids in cabinets or on lower shelves. Prepare a go bag. By the way, do you know what is a go bag and its contents? A bag out bag, or BOB, or the go bag, is a portable kit that normally contains the items one would require to survive for 72 hours when evacuating from a disaster. Although, some kits are designed to last longer period. According to the NDRRMC, or the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, the emergency survival kit should contain the following: first aid kit, flashlight, candles and matches, batteries, whistle, portable radio, drinking water in jugs, bottles, special needs of children and older adults, ready-to-eat food, blanket, clothes, raincoat, rain boots, slippers, tissue, sanitary supplies, rope, old newspapers, money of course, pen and paper, identification card with blood type and emergency contact numbers, important documents, and waterproof case. What to do during an earthquake? First, if you are indoors, stay there and take cover under a table, desk, or other sturdy furniture. Face away from windows and glass doors. A doorway without a door is an example location in which to stand. Lie, kneel, or sit near a structurally sound interior wall or corner away from windows, brick fireplaces, and glass walls. Protect your head and body from falling or flying objects. If you are driving, stop safely as soon as possible. Stay inside your vehicle until the shaking stops. Do not stop your vehicle under overpasses or bridges. Stay below window level in your vehicle. Turn off the engine and turn on the radio. Follow emergency instructions. And lastly, if you have to leave your vehicle, move to an open area quickly. What about after an earthquake? So what are the things that we should do after an earthquake? First, check for injuries. Render first aid. Do not move seriously injured victims unless they are in immediate danger. Do not use the telephone immediately unless there is a serious injury, fire, or other emergency. Hunt for hazards. Another, check for other hazards and control them, like fire, chemical spills, toxic fumes, and possible collapses. Another, check utilities. What are these? Water, gas, electricity. If there is damage, turn the utility off at the source. On March 11, 2021, Thursday at 2 p.m., we'll be having our national simultaneous earthquake drill. And this is very essential, very important. Of all earthquake preparedness measures, earthquake drills are the most important. Their purpose is to help students and staff learn how to react immediately and appropriately. Building evacuation following an earthquake is imperative due to potential danger or fires or explosions. Drills are part of our overall disaster or emergency preparedness efforts and bring our education and resources together. The proper execution of school drills will also help prevent panic, which might lead to accidents when everyone is overwhelmed with fear during a strong earthquake. As we live in an area where earthquakes are a frequent occurrence, we have to include earthquake preparedness in our overall emergency plan. The following are the different phases of an earthquake drill that we need to observe during an earthquake drill. Phase 1. This is the alarm phase. Earthquake shaking warning is given for 1 minute or 60 seconds. This will be a pre-arranged signal such as siren or bell, which is known to whole school or a community. After the alarm phase, we have the response phase or phase 2, which is you are going to execute, duck, cover, and hold, and other response actions will be performed in classrooms. After executing the duck, cover, and hold, you are now ready to evacuate, and that is a third phase of an earthquake drill, the evacuation. Once the shaking warning signal stops, immediately evacuate the school building and proceed to identified evacuation area or areas using the predetermined routes guided by the class marshal or advisor or the subject teacher. After the evacuation phase, we have the fourth phase, and that is the assembly. The whole school staff, teachers, students will assemble as per their class at the predetermined assembly point. After the assembly, we have the fifth phase, and this is the head count. The advisors or subject teachers will take the attendance and check with daily attendance sheet. So the subject teacher needs to check the attendance first or check the attendance religiously. So in case there is an earthquake, so during the head count, they can identify if there is or there are missing from the class, or make a list of absentees and activate the search and rescue team or the first aid team. So after those different phases, after the head count, then let's have the evaluation phase, and this is a sixth phase of the earthquake drill. So the overall coordinator will announce the termination of the earthquake drill. An evaluation of the drill must be conducted to identify problems encountered during the drill and how this can be corrected in future earthquake drills. Observers will give their comments, suggestions, and recommendations when all are gathered in the evacuation areas. So, those are the 6 phases of an earthquake drill. First, we have the alarm phase. Second, response phase. Third, evacuation phase. Fourth, assembly phase. Fifth, head count. And finally, we have the evaluation. That ends our session, and I do hope that you learned something from our simple discussion on understanding hazards, specifically on earthquake. And I would like to end with this important quotation: "We cannot stop natural disasters, but we can arm ourselves with knowledge. So many lives would not have to be lost if there was enough disaster preparedness." Again, thank you and God bless